Hello viewers and welcome to Novus Talks with me, your host Novus Corvis. And it's happened, what we were all expecting. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 has been officially delayed to 2023. I'm just going to say it right now. Anyone who's been watching my videos as well will already know this. From the moment we saw footage at E3 2021, I never believed the game was coming out this year. To be completely honest with you, Aonuma's wording just never clicked with me. He specifically said they were aiming for a 2022 release, and I never got any sort of confident vibe from that. I always felt like the game was most likely going to be 2023. And also because the famed so-called Zelda curse, where every mainline 3D Zelda game since Ocarina of Time has been delayed by a year or two, in Breath of the Wild's case delayed by like 4 years. So it's happened once again. The trend has continued with Breath of the Wild 2, but this isn't a bad thing. I'm going to say right now, I was hoping this would happen. Not because I hate Breath of the Wild, not because I have some disinterest in Zelda or anything like that. Quite the opposite. Let's look at the 2022 lineup for Nintendo. We have Kirby and the Forgotten Land just came out. Nintendo Switch Sports is coming out. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Mario Strikers. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Bayonetta 3. Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. There is a lot of games coming out this year. In fact, I'll go so far as to say there's too many games coming out this year almost. And so I always felt like the smart thing to do would be to delay Breath of the Wild 2, specifically Breath of the Wild 2 next year. Why? Because if they were going to show it off at E3 this year, which I'll talk about in another video, it would have like swallowed up everything. The Breath of the Wild footage would have completely overshadowed all the other games, and the more hype and marketing they build for Breath of the Wild 2, they'd have no time to focus on these other games. There wouldn't be as much attention on those games. And so by delaying Zelda to next year, it gives Nintendo time to give all these other games their spotlight. Bayonetta 3 certainly needs all the marketing it can get. Spark to Hope could do with some marketing. And obviously Xenoblade and everything else. These games need their own moments to shine. Breath of the Wild would have taken all of the spotlight from them. And for Breath of the Wild specifically, moving it into spring of next year, that means the game gets more marketing time. More months of building up. I suspect September is when the marketing will really kick off. Originally, I was certain we'd see it at E3, but now that E3 isn't happening and that the game has been delayed, I don't think we'll see it in summer. I think we'll see it in a September Nintendo Direct, and then we'll see it again at the Game Awards. Surely we have to see it at the Game Awards this year, right? Surely. You say one of these predictions enough times and eventually it has to come through. So this is the year, Breath of the Wild 2 at the Game Awards. All those like Nintendo YouTubers who've been talking about it and talking about the pattern of the first game can finally put their minds at rest, you know. They were so fixated on this E3 one year, Game Awards next year sort of thing, and it didn't happen so far with Breath of the Wild 2, but hey, Game Awards this year makes sense now. But when is it coming out? That should be pretty obvious. March 3rd, 6 years after Breath of the Wild, which, yes, is insane to think about. This is a sequel that is reusing everything from the first game. The assets, the character models, the engine, it's all being reused from the first game. So the fact it's taken even longer than the first Breath of the Wild is really interesting. And I think that stems from the fact that they're really going all out with this. They're putting all of their ideas into this game. Not like the first Breath of the Wild where they're leaving things on the cutting room floor. They're really throwing everything they have this time at this game. Which means we probably won't see a Breath of the Wild 3. But I mean, that's a conversation for another time. I suspect if they were to make a third one, obviously you'd have to set it out of Hyrule. There'd be no way you could set it in Hyrule a third time. They'd probably set it in some land outside of Hyrule or whatever. or in space, maybe. Maybe they continue the verticality. I don't know. But anyway, we'll talk about that in like 5 years' time, I guess. The point is, in this development update that Nintendo put out, Aonuma did specifically say they had other features other than the sky to explore. So that tells me the caves are going to be a thing. I think our uncertainty around that has been mixed, but this seems to sort of solidify underground exploration will be a thing in the game. Possibly water exploration and maybe a bit of the bounds outside of Hyrule. I would really love to explore the boundaries, those caves you see in Breath of the Wild, and you try to fly to them, but the game literally tells you can't go there. I would love to explore that and just discover whatever's out there, but maybe that's something to say for a third game. I don't know. But if they do that, if they add the sky, the ocean, and the caves, this is going to be a colossal game. This is going to be almost like 4 times the size of the original Breath of the Wild. There's going to be a lot of content here. And that's exciting to think about. And another good thing, funny enough, the delay gives me more time to finish the DLC. I downloaded Breath of the Wild's DLC like last year, whatever, and I played Trial of the Sword, but I never got around to Champion's Ballad, even though that's the one I was excited to play because I really want to explore the Divine Trial and fight Maz Koshia and all that, but I haven't got around to it yet. But now I have extra time to get around to it, and I don't have to worry about fitting it in while also replaying Bayonetta or Mario Kart or whatever. It's weirdly aligned for me. For me personally, this delay is a great thing. So, but I do recognize there are a lot of Zelda fans who are upset about this. Overreactions, admittedly. A lot of them are freaking out like this is the worst thing in the world. Realistically, the game was going to come out in November. It is now going to come out in March. That's like a 4-month delay. That's nothing. It could have been an entire year from that point. But it's only like 4 months, so you're not waiting that long. And as a Metroid fan in particular, that really irks me. Because I had to wait 5 years. The delay for Metroid Prime 4 was 5 years. So when I see Zelda fans getting in a tizzy about 4 months, it bothers me quite a bit. But hopefully we don't see any more games get delayed. I will cry if Bayonetta 3 or Sparks of Hope gets delayed, because there's a lot of talk around Sparks of Hope getting delayed, and I really hope that's not the case. I would be very upset about that one. And Bayonetta 3, we've had no information on the game, so we can't rule that out. But at least we know if we see a development update for Bayonetta or for Sparks of Hope, because those are the 2 games that are most likely at risk, then you know what to expect. But yeah, that's just my thoughts and opinions on the delay of the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or I guess as they're now calling it, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. They changed the title, that's big. It's got to mean something. Realistically, they're probably just going to call the game Breath of the Wild 2 in the end. I don't know, just random thoughts there for you. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What did you think of all this? Were you surprised by the delay of Breath of the Wild 2? Were you expecting it? How do you feel about it now? Are you upset? Are you happy? How does this affect your plans for playing different games this year? Maybe you have a whole backlog of games you now have more time to get through because Breath of the Wild is delayed. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And yeah, with that all said, thank you all for watching and please subscribe. Novis Corvius out.